My world was small. It was a house. But it wasn't a home. A home is a place of warmth, a place you run to. Our house was a place you ran from. The air inside was thick with unspoken words, feelings that had no names but carried the weight of stones, the kind of silence that's louder than a scream. My father was a man of few words, but his eyes said everything. They were like two closed doors. I knew behind them was a room I was not welcome in. He never had to raise his voice. The message was clear. I was a mistake, a problem, a ghost haunting the hallways of his life. My stepmother was different. She used words. She used them like little daggers, sharp, precise, aimed to find the softest parts of you. She would smile while she did it, a thin, tight smile that never reached her eyes. "Go play outside," she'd say. Her tone meant, disappear. Her love was reserved for her own children. Next to them, I was a weed in her manicured garden. I learned to live in the margins, to make myself small, to become invisible. I would watch other kids with their parents holding hands. It was like watching a movie from another planet. A world of laughter and light I could see, but never touch. The whispers were the worst part. They happened at night when they thought I was asleep. Low rumbles from my father's chest, sharp hisses from my stepmother. The feeling slid under my door like a cold draft. The sound of my existence being debated, my future being discarded. I would lie there, 9 years old, pretending to be asleep, my heart hammering against my ribs. I wasn't just a child in that house. I was a verdict. I was the living, breathing evidence of a past my father wanted to erase. My presence was a constant, infuriating reminder. I started to see the world through their eyes. A world where I was a burden. A world where I didn't belong. I would look at my reflection and try to see what they saw. Was it my nose? The way I walked? The sound of my voice? I became a detective in my own life, searching for the crime I had committed simply by being born. The house wasn't just made of bricks and mortar. It was built from their resentment. I was trapped inside its walls. The whispers became my lullaby, a constant chilling song that told me I was alone. And slowly, a dangerous thought began to grow in the dark. If I was already a ghost, maybe it was time I vanished for good. The physical pain was almost a relief, a slap, a shove, the sting of a belt. It was honest. It was a clear transaction. You did this, you get that. It had a beginning and an end. After the tears dried and the welt faded, you could almost forget. But the other pain, the one that left no marks, was a different beast. It was a poison that seeped into your bones, the way my stepmother served dinner, placing my plate on the corner of the table without looking at me, as if I were a stray dog she was forced to feed. The silence answered my questions. Every day felt like carrying a heavy backpack of invisible rocks. The weight made it hard to breathe, hard to stand up straight. At school, I'd see children run into their mother's arms. That hug felt like a treasure from a faraway kingdom. I would watch, my chest aching with a hollow I couldn't explain. I was a spectator to a life I was supposed to be living. Teachers said I was quiet or distracted. How do you explain being distracted by the hum of your own worthlessness? How do you tell them your mind is a battlefield and you're losing the war? My name. They even took that from me. My father would call me, "Hey, you, boy." My stepmother had a whole collection of names, none of them mine. Each was a small cut. Lazybones, good for nothing. That woman's child. That last one was the sharpest. A name is the first gift you're given, the sound that means you. To have it stolen is to be told you're not a person. You are a thing, an object of inconvenience. A thing doesn't need love. So I built a wall inside myself, a tall, thick wall. Behind it, I stored the hurt. I learned not to cry. Crying invited more pain. Instead, I let the anger grow. It was a tiny seed at first. Every silent dinner, every dismissive glance, every whispered insult. I watered it. I tended to it. That anger became my only companion. It kept me warm on cold nights. It was the only thing that felt truly mine. And it whispered back to the house. One day, I would make them feel as small as they made me feel. The night I left, the moon was a sliver in the sky like a clipped fingernail. It offered no comfort, no light. I was 9 years old, but in my heart, I felt 100. The decision wasn't a sudden spark. It was a slow burn that had finally reached its flashpoint. My stepmother had thrown out a small wooden toy car my birth mother had given me. She called it Clutter. When I saw it in the trash, something inside me snapped. The invisible wall I had built came crashing down. All that was left was the cold, hard resolve of the anger I had so carefully nurtured. That toy car wasn't clutter, it was me, and she had thrown me away. I waited until the house was deep in the throes of its nightly whispers. I didn't pack a bag. I had nothing to pack. My only possession was now in the garbage outside. I slipped out the back door, the rusty hinge groaning like a tired old man. The sound was deafening in the silence. I froze, my heart trying to escape my chest, but no lights came on. No one was coming. They hadn't even noticed. A part of me, a small childish part, was heartbroken by that. The other, harder part was relieved. It made leaving easier. I was a ghost after all. And ghosts don't make a sound when they leave. Walking down that dark, empty road, I wasn't scared. Fear had been my daily bread for so long that its absence felt strange, liberating. What replaced it was a cold, simmering rage. My small mind, the mind of a 9-year-old, was consumed with thoughts of revenge. I imagined myself growing up, becoming big and strong. I imagined coming back, not to ask for forgiveness, but to stand as a giant in their small world. I wanted them to see me, to finally, truly see me, and to feel a fraction of the pain they had so casually dealt me. The night wasn't filled with monsters. The monsters were all behind me in that house. With every step I took, the house grew smaller, but the bitterness I carried grew larger. I was a small boy walking into a vast, unknown darkness fueled by nothing but hate. It was a dangerous fuel, I see that now. It burns hot and fast, and eventually it consumes you. But at that moment, it was all I had. I wasn't running to something. I had no destination, no plan. I was simply running away. Away from the whispers. Away from the invisible backpack of rocks. Away from the person they tried to make me. I was a shadow on the road, and I was heading nowhere, fast. For 2 days, the world was a blur of hunger and fear. The initial fire of my anger had cooled to embers, and the reality of my situation began to set in. I was alone. Truly alone. The streets were not a playground. They were a jungle. On the 3rd day, I sat by a market watching people buy food, the smells driving me crazy. I was trying to be invisible, but someone saw me. He was a tall man, dressed entirely in white, a simple, clean sutana. It flowed around him as he walked. He had a kind face, lines from smiling. He didn't approach like I was a problem. He just knelt, eyes level with mine. He didn't ask why I was there. He didn't ask where my parents were. He looked at me, really looked. Then he said, "You look hungry, my son." He didn't call me boy. He didn't call me, "Hey, you." He called me son. The word hit me like a touch. I could only nod. He held out his hand. It was a big, warm hand. "Come," he said. "Let's get you something to eat." I hesitated. Trust was a currency I didn't have, but his eyes held no judgment, only quiet kindness. I took his hand. The first kind hand I'd held in years. He led me to a small food stall and bought me hot rice and stew. He said little, just sat with me as I ate. When I finished, he didn't ask me to leave. He said, "My name is Senior Leader Akanbi. I am from the church just down the road. We have a place for you to sleep tonight if you'd like. It's warm." A church. I didn't know churches, but a warm place to sleep. I understood that. I didn't know then that this man in white wasn't just offering a meal. He was offering a lifeline, a door into a world I never knew existed. The church was not what I expected. It wasn't a grand building with high ceilings and stern-looking statues. It was a simple, open space. The first thing that hit me was the sound. It was music, not somber, but joyful and vibrant. Drums, clapping, voices singing in harmony. People in white sutanas. They were dancing, not wild, but swaying together, as if a gentle wind moved them. It was strange. It was beautiful. For the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker, not anger or fear, but curiosity. Senior Leader Akanbi led me to a small room at the back. Spare, clean. A mat on the floor, a thin blanket. This is a place of sanctuary. No one will harm you here. His calm certainty made me believe him. That night, I lay on the mat listening. The singing rose and fell like the tide. A language I didn't know. Words like hallelujah, imol, divine light, a language of joy. The opposite of the whispers I'd grown up with. The doctrine was revealed slowly, not by lectures but by living. Purity, the white garments, community. A family bound by faith, not blood. They called each other brother. They called each other sister. They called me son. Each time I heard it, a little ice around my heart would melt. Putting on the sutana for the first time felt like shedding a skin. The clean white garment was light. It was simple. As I tied the girdle around my waist, I felt a sense of belonging that was entirely new. When I looked at myself in a small, cracked mirror, I didn't see the good-for-nothing boy from my father's house. I saw a celestial, one of them. It wasn't a costume. It was a promise of a new beginning, a clean slate. I was no longer defined by the dirt I came from, but by the purity I was striving for. The music became my teacher. In the Celestial Church, music is not entertainment. It is prayer. It is testimony. I learned the songs, the rhythms, the harmonies. One particular service, the pastor was preaching about loving your enemies. He said, "Hate is a poison you drink, hoping the other person will die." The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. For years, I had been drinking that poison. I had been nurturing my bitterness, thinking it made me strong. But sitting there in my white sutana, surrounded by my new family, I realized it had only been making me sick. It was a chain, and it was tying me to the very people I wanted to escape. To be truly free, I had to let them go. I had to forgive them. Today, I'm a medical doctor living in America and married with a beautiful family. Celestial Church took away my dream of being a murderer. Share this video to help somebody conquer bitterness.